Thanks so much for joining us for the Partnering for Profitability webinar. As a reminder, this call is being recorded. You can submit questions using the Q&A button at the bottom portion of your Zoom window. With that, I would now like to turn this over to Guy Gunther.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, and welcome everybody to CenturyLink's first webinar in celebration of National Black Business Month. I'm Guy Gunther, Vice President and General Manager of Mass Markets. We are thrilled to host today's webinar and excited to offer a powerful lineup of speakers and panelists. It's no secret that Black-owned businesses can be powerful vehicles for advancing economic empowerment, and Black business owners account for approximately 10% of US businesses and nearly 30% of all minority-owned businesses. According to the US Census Bureau, that amounts to approximately 2 million companies. During the pandemic, many of our customers who are Black entrepreneurs and business owners faced many unique challenges and struggled to survive. Our purpose for today's webinar is to leave everyone feeling inspired and provide helpful information for Black business success. Thanks to all for joining us. We're glad you're here. Happy National Black Business Month.
Thanks,
With that,
Guy.
I will turn it back.
Thanks, Guy. Hi, everyone. I am India Sylvester. I'm the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Lumen Technologies, which is the parent company of our trusted brand, CenturyLink. So at Lumen and CenturyLink, we are so excited to celebrate National Black Business Month by acknowledging and appreciating Black-owned businesses across the nation and all that they represent. You know, this pandemic has been tough, yet many of our Black businesses have continued to show their resilience while operating and thriving against all odds. We are honored to invest in a forum that recognizes and empowers Black-owned businesses to share best practices while embracing profitable techniques and strategies. To set the stage for our first National Black Business webinar, I am excited to have the honor of introducing our keynote celebrity speaker, Dr. Randal Pinkett. Dr. Pinkett has established himself as an entrepreneur, innovator, speaker, author, media personality, and DEI expert who is leading the way in business, technology, and equity for all. Dr. Pinkett is doing very big things. He is the co-founder, chair, and CEO of BCT Partners, a global multi-million-dollar research, training, consulting, technology, and data analytics firm. BCT Partners is on a mission to provide insights about diverse people that lead to equity. Dr. Pinkett's company has received numerous accolades and is recognized by Forbes as one of America's best management consulting firms. Ernst & Young as EY Entrepreneur of the Year, Manage HR Magazine as a top 10 firm for diversity and inclusion, Black Enterprise Magazine's top 100 list of the nation's largest Black-owned businesses, and Inc. Magazine's 5,000 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Dr. Pinkett is an expert in several areas relating to emerging technologies, big data analytics, social innovation, culture, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, and is a regular contributor on MSNBC, CNN, and Fox Business News. Dr. Pinkett is an international public speaker. He is the author and co-author of several books, including Black Faces in High Places, Black Faces in White Places, Data-Driven DEI, Campus CEO, and No Money Down CEO. Now, I know you're getting excited as you hear all of these books. There will be an opportunity to receive a copy of Dr. Randal Pinkett's latest book, and we'll share more about that exciting opportunity a little later in today's forum. Dr. Pinkett holds, count them, 5 degrees, including a BS in electrical engineering from Rutgers University, a MS in computer science from the University of Oxford in England, a MS in electrical engineering, an MBA, and a PhD from MIT. Most notably, he was the first and only African American to receive the prestigious Rhodes Scholarship at Rutgers University. We are in amazing company today, everybody. As a former high jumper, long jumper, sprinter, and captain of the Rutgers University men's track and field team, Dr. Pinkett was inducted to the Academic All-America Hall of Fame. He is also a winner of the hit reality television show that aired on NBC, The Apprentice. Born in Philadelphia and raised in New Jersey, Dr. Pinkett is a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and First Baptist Church in Somerset, New Jersey, where he resides with his wife, 2 sons, and daughter. Dr. Pinkett passionately believes that for those to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think that is something that resonates with all of us. Throughout his endeavors, he has placed great emphasis on his responsibility to give back to the community. We are so excited to welcome our keynote speaker, who is joining us on our virtual stage. But first, let's watch this inspiring video about Dr. Randal Pinkett, Redefine the Game.
Life's a game, but it's not fair. I break the rules, so I don't care. Feel it coming in the air, hear the screams from everywhere. I'm addicted to the thrill. It's a dangerous love affair. Can't be scared when it goes down. Got a problem, tell me now. Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna run this town tonight.
I said it, we are. This is Rock Nation. Pledge your allegiance. Get your fatigues on. All black, everything. Black cars, all black, everything. And ain't nobody fresher. I'm in. They sit, Martin Marcello on the table, screaming on the other side. They jealous. We got a banquet full of. They got a table full of fellas.
Feel it coming in the air, hear the screams from everywhere. I'm addicted to the thrill. It's a dangerous love affair. Victories within the mile. Almost there, don't give up now. Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna run this town tonight. Who's gonna run this town tonight?
Can they catch us? Yeah.
Greetings. Thank you, India, for the introduction and for the kind words. Happy National Black Business Month to everyone that's gathered for this webinar. I want to recognize India and Guy and Robin Reed, who you'll hear from in a moment, from the Arizona Black Chamber of Commerce, Mark Molzen, Sonia Hartfield, my good friend Esmeralda Cameron, and David Poindexter, all who have worked behind the scene and around the scene and in front of the scene to bring this webinar to fruition. Welcome to Partnering for Profitability, where we are going to talk about technology, we're going to talk about partnerships, and we're going to talk about how to grow your business. Let me begin by saying this, that I stand before you as a very proud Black business owner. I am celebrating this year 30 years as an entrepreneur. I started my first company with my 3 business partners back when I was in college. We're all 4 Black men who have been together now for 30 years in business together. And for those that will appreciate this, I call us New Edition with no Bobby Brown. We didn't have to kick anybody out of the group. We got 4 friends who have stayed connected over 30 years in business. And so this topic, this month, this webinar is near and dear to my heart because Black business and Black entrepreneurship is a part of who I am. It's a part of what I do. Now, you heard briefly from the introduction, and again, India, I appreciate the remarks, that I've been blessed to have had a multitude of varied experiences as an entrepreneur, as a Rhodes Scholar, as a reality television show winner of The Apprentice, as a track and field athlete, as an MIT, Oxford, and Rutgers grad. But what's been most valuable to me has not been the things that I've done, although I'm quite proud of what I've accomplished, but rather the ways that I think. That's what's been most valuable. And I don't take credit for how I think. It's been instilled in me by mentors and teachers and family and friends. But there are some very particular ways that I think that I have found to be most valuable. And so I want to speak to you to the topic of the 2 essential mindsets to compete in the 21st century. The 2 essential mindsets to compete in the 21st century. Now, before I talk about the mindsets, let me talk about 2 trends that set the stage for the mindsets. And the first trend is the economy. We know, and I'm talking to those who have lived this audience is no stranger. We're living in the midst of some very challenging and uncertain economic times. Even before the pandemic, the marketplace was tight and competitive. Now it's tighter and more competitive. We saw it all: layoffs, workforce reductions, restructuring, reorganization, downsizing, my favorite, right sizing, whatever you call it. Times were tough before COVID-19. But since COVID-19, it's been a whole even more difficult endeavor to be in business. We have seen the downfall of countless businesses, some of which have been large, long-standing multinational corporations we never dreamed would have fallen to the wayside. Here's a short list of companies that filed bankruptcy in the pandemic: Hertz, Lord & Taylor, Brooks Brothers, J. Crew, Gold's Gym, JCPenney, Virgin Atlantic, Neiman Marcus, Pier 1, Chuck E. Cheese. And then the one that broke my heart, absolutely broke my heart, Toys R Us. I was a Toys R Us kid. That broke my heart. So we're in unprecedented times. And with increasing frequency, the implications of the economic times that we're living in is that we are increasingly being asked to do more and more with less and less. Those who are able to do more with less will be competitive in the 21st century. Those who cannot will not. You can accept this, or you can move to the 51st state of the union, the state of denial. The second trend, the first being the economy, the second is technology. We're living in an increasingly technological society, and the pandemic has increased our reliance on technology. From CDs to DVDs to MP3s to PSPs to HD TVs, from iPods to iTunes to iPhones to iPads. Sometimes I wish that I had some iTime for iPeace and iQuiet to get some iSleep. Somebody said, I heard that. But we can all agree that our world is radically different today than it was even just a few years ago. Now, when I graduated Rutgers, I took my first job working for AT&T. And back then, we used to run these commercials that were meant to be futuristic, to predict this distant future that you would one day realize. And we would say in the commercials, have you ever sent a fax from the beach? Have you ever tucked in your kid from a phone booth? Or have you ever paid a toll without stopping? And then we would fade to black, and they would say, well, you will. And the company that would bring it to you is AT&T. Well, we have all of that today. You can go down most toll roads and not pay. You can tuck in your child from your cell phone. You can read a book that's 1,000 miles away. In fact, the only thing that didn't come true is that AT&T didn't bring any of it to you. That's the one thing we missed, because they spun off a company called Lucent Technologies. But I'll tell you who has brought some of that reality to you. That's Lumen Technologies. In fact, my friends at Lumen would describe today's technological reality as the fourth industrial revolution. And in their words, not my words, the convergence of digital, physical, and biotechnologies driving an unrelenting acceleration of human progress. And I want you to key off that word that Lumen said, not me, acceleration of human progress. Because the implications of an increasingly technological society is that we live in a world where the only thing constant is change. And the only thing you can count on is change and more change. And technology is a primary contributor to that dynamic because technology is an accelerator. Lumen's words, not mine. Those who are able to keep pace with hyper accelerated change fueled by technology will be competitive in the 21st century. Those who cannot will not. And so the sum total of these two trends, the economy and technology, have several implications, but primary among them is that what we've seen over the past few years and few decades is that it's not a temporary shift, but a fundamental change in how the marketplace functions. I've got news for you, Toto. I've got a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. We're in the midst of a new day with new challenges and new possibilities that require new ways of thinking, or more specifically, new mindsets. And the two mindsets I will offer to you for National Black Business Month are first, to compete in an economy where you're being asked to do more with less. We must embrace what you all know, and I'm going to break down, is the entrepreneur's mindset. Second, to counteract change, hyper accelerated by technology, we must all embrace and understand what I will define as the innovator's mindset. Let me break those down in that order. When I say the entrepreneur's mindset, let me be clear. I'm not actually talking about owning a business, although we're here to talk about Black business ownership. I'm actually talking about a way of thinking. In other words, entrepreneurship is not just something you do, it's a way that you think. And you need not be an entrepreneur to think like an entrepreneur. Just because you are an entrepreneur doesn't mean you think the way entrepreneurs think. And the entrepreneur's mindset is comprised of 5 characteristics. The first, creativity, a clever or inventive approach to whatever you do. Second, resourcefulness, knowing how to make something out of nothing, or said differently, how to make $1 out of 15 cents stay legit and still pay your rent. If you didn't know, that was Tupac. Let me keep it moving. Third, courage, the belief you can achieve whatever your mind can conceive. Fourth, resilience, the ability to overcome any challenge. And then fifth and finally, perhaps most importantly, passion, boundless enthusiasm for whatever you pursue. Stated simply, when you embody these 5 characteristics, whether you own a business or not, you think the way entrepreneurs think. Creativity, resourcefulness, courage, resilience, and passion. Said differently, it is entrepreneurs who think this way that do 3 things. They see opportunity, they seek opportunity, and then they seize opportunity. And if you're still here, still in business, still around in the wake of what we've seen through the COVID-19 pandemic, then I say that you've been there, you've done that, you've got the t-shirt, you sold the t-shirt, and you made money on the t-shirt. So I congratulate you for surviving, if not thriving, in the midst of some very challenging times. So how do you make this mindset practical? Let me break it down for you in 2 ways. First, more philosophically, if not practically, is that you have to do what we do as entrepreneurs. And that is to bring passion every day to the work that you do. Passion is the reason you got into business. And passion is what will sustain you through business. If there is no passion, there's no purpose. No passion, no pursuit. No passion, no point. It is passion that gives you the energy and the wherewithal to overcome the inevitable challenges, and it becomes infectious. It rubs off on your team, your colleagues, your customers, your clients, that at the 2 most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why you were born. Passion is the answer to why you were born, why you got into business, why you became an entrepreneur, and not losing sight of that. And some call what we're witnessing today the great resignation. Well, I beg to differ. I believe it is the great reprioritization. I believe we are all reprioritizing what is meaningful to us. And as entrepreneurs, we must do the same. Or, in the words of the great scholar and philosopher, Nicki Minaj, to live doesn't mean you're alive. Those are the words of Nicki Minaj. She just hosted the Video Music Awards. And I think she got the Vanguard Award. But Nicki can get deep. Nicki said, to live doesn't mean you're alive. Passion is what keeps you alive. Or in the words of the great billionaire and mogul Oprah Winfrey, when you love what you do, you will never work another day in your life. I see some head nods just amongst the other panelists. But the second way that you make the entrepreneur's mindset practical, I want you to look at the screen and I want you to process what you see. And this gets back to this theme of partnering for profitability. That's Kathy Hughes and Alfred Liggins, the founders of TV One and Radio One and Interactive One. That is Sher Wang, H.T. Cho, and Peter Chow, of founders of HTC that make cell phones. That is Lisa Price and Steve Stout of Carol's Daughter. That is Dave Stewart and James Cavanaugh, the founders of Worldwide Technology, arguably the largest Black-owned business on the planet. That's Anita Roddick and Gordon Roddick, the founders of The Body Shop. We find them at malls. That is Bill Gates and Paul Allen of Microsoft, David Filo and Jerry Yang of Yahoo, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak of Apple, Larry Page and Sergey Brin of Google, Mark Zuckerberg and Eduardo Saverin of Facebook. Or was it the Winklevoss twins and Divya Narendra who founded Facebook? Actually, we don't really know who founded Facebook, but we know that they were students at the time. Nevertheless, that is left to right, Dallas Grundy, Lawrence Hibbert, yours truly, and Jeffrey Robinson, the founders of my firm, BCT Partners. What's the pattern that you see? The pattern that you see is partnering for a purpose. One of my favorite books is Good to Great by Jim Collins. And in Good to Great, Collins talks about the level 4 leader and the level 5 leader. The level 4 leader, the good leader, thinks what and then who. What should we be doing and who should be on our team to help us get there? He describes that as a genius with 1,000 helpers. But the level 5 leader, the great leader, again, good to great, the great leader thinks the opposite. The great leader thinks who first and then what? Who should be on the team? Who should be on the bus? Who should be in the room? And only then do we collectively figure out what should we be doing. Let me give you a very practical example. I ask you to ask yourselves, how many of you recognize who's on the screen? I suspect most of you recognize who's on your screen. That is Oprah Winfrey. If you were in my classroom, I'd ask you to raise your hand. But how many of you recognize this gentleman on the right? I suspect that there's only a handful of you that actually recognize the gentleman on the right. Well, that is Jeff Jacobs. And here's how the story goes. Oprah goes through her life leading with passion. You heard me mention that earlier about passion being the guiding light. Her passion, communication, and helping people. If you know Oprah's story, she would interview crows on the fence in the back of her house. Picture that. Oprah interviewing crows. The crows can't talk. What are you doing, Oprah? And then second, giving and helping people. You know about Oprah's Angel Network and her whole ethos is around giving. But she's passionate about these things. She's growing her career. She wins the Miss Black Tennessee Beauty Pageant. She gets a scholarship to Tennessee State University. She gets noticed by a radio show producer. She does very well with her own radio show. She gets noticed by a television producer, gets her own television show locally. She goes national, all the while working for somebody else. And as she realizes that she's having to do things for which she is not passionate about, she asks the question, who can be a part of my team? She finds a guy named Jeff Jacobs, a lawyer. Some describe him as a piranha. Those are words online describing Jeff Jacobs, a lawyer, back office expert, does all the things Oprah does not have passion for and does them well. Legal, back office, accounting, operations. That becomes the who. Now the question is, well, what can we do together? Jacobs says to Oprah, Oprah, I believe you can own your show. Oprah's quoted response, you're crazy. Nobody owns their show, Jeff. Jeff says, I can do the deal. She said, if you do that deal, Jeff, I will give you 10% of whatever we do together. So what happens? Jacobs does the deal. Oprah goes from the host of the Oprah Winfrey Show to the owner of the Oprah Winfrey Show. She ends up launching her own radio network. She ends up launching her own television network, her own magazine, her own school, her own studio, Harpo. And she becomes the only person I know to put herself on the cover of her own magazine every month and still sell copies. That's a bad woman. Because if I put myself on the cover of my own magazine every month, I would sell one copy to my mama, and she'd only buy it because she didn't want me to feel bad. And now, where is Jeff Jacobs? I will tell you where Jeff Jacobs is. Jeff Jacobs is paid. That's where he is. He's paid. And let me tell you this. He is exactly where I want to be. He is wealthy and anonymous. No one knows who this dude is, and he is paid. What's the lesson? Lumen. What's the lesson? CenturyLink. What's the lesson? The lesson is don't conform the team to the strategy, but the strategy to the team. Know who must be a part of your who. Write your name down, the word in, and fill in the blank. That's what I'm asking you to do. Who will be a part of your who? And then you figure out what you can do together. Or more succinctly, the best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men or women to do what he or she needs done, and the self-restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it. Somebody nodded their head on that. All right, last part to close us out. The first part, the entrepreneur's mindset in response to a challenged economy, doing more with less. When you bring that mindset of passion and a team, you can do more with less. I guarantee you. Second trend, the technology, hyper-accelerated change, the mindset, the innovator's mindset. I'll be quick on this one, but let me break it down for you. What's innovation? Innovation is the introduction of something new, a new process, a new technology, a new approach. That is innovation. What is the innovator's mindset? The innovator's mindset says you must have a healthy acceptance of failure as the only way to innovate, the only way to succeed. Now, there are three principles of failure. First is failure says nothing about you. It's not personal, it's business. Second principle, you learn more from failure than you do from success. That's how children learn, by making mistakes and learning from the mistakes. In fact, some adults learn the same way. Third, this is a quote from Winston Churchill. Success is nothing more than going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. And so what that says to me, and would perhaps say to you, is that the connecting line between failure and success is perseverance. If you're willing to go at it over and over and over and over and over and over again, then you will innovate, you will succeed. But how many of us are willing to go at it over and over and over again? I'll give you two quick examples. WD-40. You perhaps recognize WD-40, but did you know that WD-40 was founded by three people, a team, who wanted to create a line of rust prevention solvents and degreasers for the aerospace industry? It took them 40 attempts. Now, let me be clear, to prevent rust, you have to displace water. When water is present, rust forms. Displace water, rust doesn't form. WD-40 stands for water displacement perfected on the 40th try. Yes, it gets better. You got to see where I'm going. Formula 409, you must see where I'm going. Formula 409, founded by two young scientists in Detroit, a team. They wanted to create the ultimate cleaner. Only when they had created the 409th formula did they finally get it right. That's right. What's the lesson? Don't let a setback hold you back, especially in a pandemic. Because a setback is a setup for a comeback. If there is no pain, there's no gain. There's no struggle, there's no progress. There's no risk, there's no reward. There's no test, there's no testimony. There's no trouble, there's no triumph. No problems, no power, which means no disappointment, no discipline. Sometimes you have to go through in order to grow through, which means if there's nothing ventured, there's nothing gained. If you don't believe, then don't bother. So go hard or go home, because failure isn't falling down, failure is staying down. Somebody tweet that. Or in summary, you want to make it practical? The innovator's mindset, do three things. First, take risks. Step outside of your comfort zone. Second, if you're going to fail, fail fast. You don't get extra points for failing long. Fail fast as you can. And then third, pivot faster. Because the faster you fail and the faster you pivot, the faster you get to the innovation that lies ahead. Summary quote, to win without risk is to triumph without glory. Most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of the consequences of failure. Remove the consequences and you unleash their innovative potential, including yours. In closing, in my opening remarks, I talked about two trends: struggling economy and ever-evolving technology. Talked about this new landscape needing new leaders and a new mindset, the entrepreneur's mindset and the innovator's mindset. If I could sum up my message to you in one word and one word only for National Black Business Month, that word would be commitment. A commitment to passion as the guiding light, to being that level 5 leader who thinks who first and then what, to risk taking and accepting failure as the only path to innovation, and to stepping out of your comfort zone into your growth zone as a habit and not as episodic. It's a paradigmatic shift from embracing these principles someday to embracing them on Monday. And I'll close out with one final quote, which I believe captures the spirit of my message and this delivery. And that quote is the following: that we are not meant to see through each other, but to see each other through. So let's recommit for this National Black Business Month. Recommit to the entrepreneur's mindset, recommit to the innovator's mindset, and above all, recommit to not seeing through each other, but seeing each other through. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pinkett. So inspiring. We want to open it up at this point now for Q&A. So I believe you've got an opportunity there, everyone who is on the call, to input a question, if you have it, into the Q&A box down at the bottom. In the interim, while people are kind of gathering their thoughts and thinking about those questions, I thought I might just kind of throw one out to you, Dr. Pinkett. I thought it was really interesting hearing about when you started your first business. And so that's really interesting. And quite frankly, I'm thinking about where my head was at that time in high school. And I just don't know that would have happened. And so I'm curious to hear from you. What are maybe some of the challenges that you faced when starting your first business?
It's a great question, India. And in the spirit of partnering with a purpose, partnering for profitability, rather, I mentioned that I have 3 business partners over 30 years. What I didn't mention is that I've lost 4 business partners over 30 years. And some of them had to be asked out. Some of them had to be kicked out, and some had to be escorted out. And I think of being in business with someone as second only to being married. You have a legal obligation. You have to communicate. You see each other on a regular basis. Your taxes impact one another. The list just goes on and on. Partnering for profitability in a business relationship is serious business, and not a decision to be taken lightly. We took it too lightly. We entered into relationships where we were married when we should have been dating, or we were married and should have been engaged and then called off the engagement. But nevertheless, we learned. And while the 4 of us have endured over 30 years, we've learned, some people say, don't go into business with family. Well, actually, for us, we've gone into business with people who became family. We're like 4 brothers now. But it's because we can separate the personal from the professional. It doesn't spill over when we disagree in the office into hanging out on a Friday at a cookout. So that ability to be discerning about who to partner with, I lacked early on, and I've developed over time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we had a couple of Bobby Browns, India. Let me just be clear.
Uh-oh, I'm nervous. We actually have a couple of questions coming in. Here's one from Adrian. Can you talk more about the mindset of an entrepreneur while being employed full time? What does that look like?
Oh, great question. And we're going to be giving away copies of my latest book, Black Faces in High Places. And it's these 10 strategic actions. Strategic action number 8 talks about think and act like an intrapreneur. Sorry, actually, strategic action number 7. Number 8 is think and act like an entrepreneur. And in that strategic action, we talk about how you take the entrepreneur's mindset and apply it in an established organization. Because again, it's a mindset. It's not a profession. It's a way of thinking. And it's about how are you seizing opportunity? How are you bringing teams together? How are you seeing something missing within the organization? These two departments aren't talking to each other. That product could be improved. This innovation could actually be even more innovative if we were to add these features, these functionalities to it. And so entrepreneurial thinking is not confined to entrepreneurs. You can be an intrapreneur, and you can be an entrepreneurial librarian, entrepreneurial teacher, entrepreneurial professor, entrepreneurial corporate professional. If you bring that creativity, resourcefulness, courage, resilience, and passion. Last thing I'll say real quick. Studies have found that corporate executives who reach the C-suite have fewer promotions than those who plateau at the mid-managerial level. I'll say it differently. Those who plateau have more promotions than those who reach the top. That is counterintuitive. Why? Because those who reach the top are more discerning. When given opportunity to advance, they say no if it doesn't tap into what they believe can help them to be their best and do their best. Whereas those who plateau say yes to everything. I'll take the promotion, I'll take the relocation, I'll take the lateral move, not discerning, can I be my best and do my best? And so they have more activity, but less advancement. Passion is a powerful concept when applied in organizations and in entrepreneurship.
I would echo a lot of what you're saying there, Dr. Pinkett. I mean, passion is super important. And I almost wonder if that passion is also what helps people keep going. There's a question that we have out here from Aaron that says, to be an entrepreneur and an innovator, you have to be willing to take risks and fail. And during your talk, you talked about how sort of the space between failure and success is that perseverance. And so the question is, how do you find that courage to persevere, to take those risks and be willing to fail?
Great question. First, let's just clarify that courage does not mean no fear. Courage means moving forward despite the fear, acknowledging the fear, embracing the fear, but moving past the fear. I think there's two ways that I have found courage. One is incrementally more risky moves. So I don't start off with like a really big risk. Start off with a safer one. It's like a muscle. Courage is a muscle. So you flex it and it gets stronger. You take that risk that you were not so worried about, but reasonably worried about. And then you find out it's okay. And then you take a bigger risk and then et cetera. And I think secondly, I have found tremendous comfort in having a team around me that can help to mitigate my blind spots. A bias produces a blind spot. And so we all have our preferences, our biases that produce blind spots. If we can all look at it from different angles, we can hopefully get to the best solution. But also, if one of us falls, the other can pick them up. So there's strength in numbers. Truly, there is strength in numbers. And that can help you to find courage in the midst of a safer psychological space amongst those that you trust.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pinkett. So I want to do a quick time check because I know we've got more questions, but I know that we also are going to be moving on to other pieces of the program that we're so excited about as well. I think we've got time maybe for one more. So let me just take a quick look here and grab a question here. So here's one that says, what happens when you partner for profitability, then members of your team start dropping in efficiency? This could create lopsided inputs or contributions to the organization. What would you say is the best way to handle this?
Well, if you partner for profitability and then you start seeing diminished efficiency, I think there's some deeper questions that you have to ask about culture. And I'm probably speaking as if I'm India Sylvester right now as a lead on diversity, equity, inclusion, but culture eats strategy for lunch. And if you're not attendant and intentional, I'll say it again, attendant and intentional about the culture that is enabling for your team, then you have to do the work to assess your culture, see what's working and what's not working. How are people experiencing it? And then how can you define the parameters and then be reinforcing of them through competency development, through how we're empowering managers and leaders to find their voice, to be reinforcing, how we're providing training and learning and development that give people the skills that are reflective of the culture we're trying to inculcate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd say ask those deeper questions about culture to unearth whether it is culture that's undermining that efficiency. And if so, how do you be more attendant and more intentional about that culture?
Very well said. Thank you so much, Dr. Pinkett. And thank you so much for being here with us today, really sharing your words of wisdom. I certainly have been taking notes feverishly, and I believe that the folks that are on our call have gotten a number of nuggets from you that they can take away. At this time, I'm going to sort of move us to the next portion of our program. So I'm going to turn it over now to Scott Davis, VP General Manager, Mass Markets for CenturyLink. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, India. And let me just start again by thanking Dr. Pinkett for such a great presentation. You know, the things you talked about, entrepreneur mindset and innovators mindset, those are very parallel to our charge here at Lumen Technologies across all of our brands, including CenturyLink. So our goal here, and folks show up every day with the goal of furthering human progress through technology. And you really can't do that without diversity, equity, and inclusion at the forefront of that mission. So I really appreciate everybody's attention on this today and participation for that matter. And even better is we're coming to the end of Black Business Month. And so this is a great way to celebrate the close of that by having all of this knowledge sharing going across the web here. So I appreciate that. And with that, I'm pretty excited to announce our facilitator. We've got an amazing panel for everybody today. Lots more insight coming, and I couldn't think of a better person to facilitate the panel other than our own Robin Reed. And I say our own because I'm in Arizona, where he happens to be located as well. And he's the CEO of the Black Chamber of Commerce. A very impressive resume, although I feel a little guilty that we didn't put forward an intro video or a hype video as great as Dr. Pinkett's. But I'll tell you, he's very well recognized. He is a co-founder and principal of Mfluent, which is a corporate coaching and consulting company. They're focused on strategy alignment and talent optimization. He's a recognized professional speaker. He's spoken nationally and internationally on topics like business development, strategy, talent optimization, mergers and acquisitions. And then he's been working with entrepreneurs and executives for more than 3 decades. So across, all of North America, including Canada and Mexico. Some people call him a serial entrepreneur because he's started, operated, and sold multiple companies. So it really fits well with what we're talking about today. And also as a fellow Arizonan, I'm certainly appreciative of all of the work and engagement that Robin does in our state. He's very active and serves on the board in many of the very important entities of our state. So the Arizona Technology Council, Silent Witness, Valley of the Sun United Way, Arizona Chamber of Commerce, Arizona State University, and particularly the W.P. Carey School of Business as part of ASU. So certainly hats off to you, Robin, and thanks for all of that, of course. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to you to get our great panel discussion going as you also introduce the amazing panelists we have for our audience today.
Scott, thank you very much. That was a great introduction. I am so privileged to be here with both CenturyLink and Lumen. We have had an extended partnership. As Scott mentioned, I am the president and CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona. I have been proud to hold that role for the last 6 years and sat on their board of directors for 3 years prior. And for that entire near decade, CenturyLink and Lumen Technologies have been proud partners of our organization. And when I say partners, I mean in all ways, not only providing much needed financial support, but providing human support, human capital, resources, the opportunities that they have created for our organization through our partnership have been invaluable and certainly have helped our organization not only grow, again, partnering for profitability, but have also helped us help so many other businesses. I just want to make a disclosure right off the bat. I don't like to say stealing, so I will just say that I will be aggressively borrowing some of the things that Dr. Pinkett said when he was speaking. In particular, I like people moving to the 51st state, the state of denial. So if you see that appearing in any of my speeches, please know that I aggressively borrowed that from Dr. Pinkett. Also, like Dr. Pinkett, I started my first business when I was very young, 10 years old. I will say that my parents unknowingly raised me to be an entrepreneur. There were 5 kids in our family, and I would go to my parents and say that I wanted things. I like clothes, I like cars, I like to travel. For some reason, I always like to participate in expensive sports. And I would go to them and let them know that I wanted something. And with genuine enthusiasm, my parents would say, "That's fantastic. How are you going to get it?" And because I didn't know any different, I thought that question was one I had to answer for myself, and I did. So I would always figure out ways to get it. And my first business endeavor, we moved to a new neighborhood, and I went around to all the kids that had paper routes. And I said, any day you don't want to run your route, I will do it. I'll get on my bike and I'll take your paper route. Here's the deal. I don't want to roll papers and put rubber bands around them, so they got to be ready to go, but I'll take your route. The next thing I did was when I was on their route, I knocked on every single door and asked the homeowner, where do you want your paper? Do you want it on your porch, your driveway, your front lawn? Where do you want it? And I made a point of always delivering their paper to the place they said they wanted. Now, here's the catch. The kids whose routes I took, they never liked to go ask for the money. That was my favorite part, right? That's the business part. I wanted to go ask for the money. Why? Because I know that if I had delivered to them where their paper was and the other people whose route it was didn't, when I went to go collect, guess who got all the tips? So that was my first venture in business, right? Because in business, you can do it cheaper, faster, or better. I went with better. And so I just delivered a better quality service, and that has carried with me. So I am so grateful to my parents for instilling in me that desire to always ask the question, how are you going to get what you want? Because entrepreneurs wake up every day answering that question for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, often 7 days a week. So I am so incredibly proud to moderate this panel. I know several of the panelists, and I think you're going to be just so excited. So let's get started. The first panelist is Sandra Porter Marks. Sandra is with Clayco. Clayco is a multi-billion-dollar commercial construction project management firm, nationwide. They might be international. I just know that they came into Arizona about a year ago, and talk about disruption. $1 billion in projects under contract in a year. In 1 year, and that's during the pandemic. It's been so impressive. We've been really thrilled to partner with them on events that are being used to help promote minority business ownership. Sandra, if you would, just tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you are with Clayco.
Thanks, Robin. And your story about your first business is so reminiscent of mine. I'm very similar, but started my business 37 years ago. As far as the current business, but had always been one who really wanted to serve. And I always tell people, I really see myself as a servant. I don't know if that's because I'm the oldest child. So I started off really just wanting to serve my family, whether that's helping out with odd jobs to bring a few pennies into the house to help my father, who was the sole breadwinner, or to help my mother with my siblings, but always in a servant mindset. And that translated to, me also wanting to serve my community. The more I really started to understand, in particular, after pursuing my own educational background with my MBA, really understanding what Black businesses were going through and how could I serve? What could I do with all this knowledge I had acquired? And really, as I matured, I really realized I was serving my God. So I actually really talk about my evolution in entrepreneurship being one that, as I matured and understood very much what the doctor said, that I found out what my passion was. I found out where my lane was. And that lane led me to Clayco. So prior to coming inside of Clayco 7 years ago as an executive to really help Clayco to solve some of the problems that they were seeing in communities all over the country. Prior to that, I was a consultant to Clayco. So I own my own business. I've experienced all of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, but definitely enjoyed also the wins as a result of that. Doing very much the same thing, surrounding myself with people, really starting with family and saying, okay, now we've got the family. Now, what skill do you have? What skill do you have? What skill do you have? And then put all that together. And that's propelled me forward. So I'm really excited to share today, Robin. Thank you so much, because I find that as a servant, I usually benefit best when I partner with other servants. And I'm really benefiting from this relationship. So thank you.
Sandra, thank you so much, and really looking forward to so many of the things that we've got planned for the future for our organizations and how we're going to work well together. I'm going to move on to Abdullah Sanders. Abdullah and I are friends. He has handled our IT since before I was even heading up the chamber, and I can honestly tell you, we've never had a down day. It's been 9 years and our technology has never been down. So I'm not going to jinx us. I'm just going to say that's excellence in his particular role. Abdullah is the president of Sandtrack Technologies. That is a cybersecurity managed service provider. Abdullah, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are with your business?
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Abdullah Sanders. I started Sandtrack Technologies 21 years ago at the age of 25. And we're based here in Phoenix. And my entrepreneur journey started actually as a kid. I was about 10 years old, and my mother and father really, I think they really favored my sister for a while, but they bought my sister a Tandy 1000. That was one of them old PCs that you hook up to the TV. And my sister, she said, you know what, I don't want to play with this. You know, she wanted the dolls and things. And I looked at it and I said, wait a minute, this is me. And that's when I started learning more about technology. And my father always preached in our household, you know what, son, it's very important for you to own your own business. My father was an entrepreneur, but he was more of a one-man show. And one time I told him, I said, Dad, I want to grow up to be a millionaire. And he said, son, I can't teach you that. I can teach you how to make a great living. He said, but I want you to go out and find someone that would teach you how to become that millionaire and build a great business. So that was one of my key assignments from my father. And I went out and found a mentor, you know, at the age of 20. I moved to Arizona and I ran into a businessman that taught me a lot about business. And he told me how important it is to work on myself. And I make a point to work on myself and basically continue to expand our company. And like I said before, we've been in business for over 21 years. I made it through 2008. I made it through COVID, and we built the team, and we're still growing today. So Robin, thank you for all your support. Thank you for inviting me to be on this webinar. It's great, and I'm glad to be here.
Abdullah, thank you so very much. We're going to move on to Deirdre Henry Spires. Deirdre is a senior advisor with the U.S. Small Business Administration. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. I will say that I have been so impressed with the SBA and their commitment to increasing access to capital for diverse businesses. I've really seen that be a focal point over the last 5 or 6 years. I'm sure it's been happening longer than that. But tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. You can see me like grinning from ear to ear. First of all, I had it handy. Yes, and I remember being hooked up to the TV. And so I'm just honored to be here. But first, I'm going to just bring you greetings from Administrator Isabella Casillas Guzman. She is our 27th administrator for the Small Business Administration. I am her senior advisor, and I came on board to be senior advisor for COVID programs. And I thank God we hit it off. We did not know each other prior to that. My job was to help her move money out the door to get Main Street and small businesses back up and running through our COVID programs. I came in April of 2021. And the first program they handed me was Shuttered Venues and Operators Grants. And that was about building the capacity of businesses that were not in the typical SBA family. These were arts performers, Broadway. They knew they were businesses, but they did not know how to partner with the SBA. And we built a relationship that helped us move from $0 when I came on to $14.5 billion out the door, and partnerships and relationships where when I started, there were billboards that said SBA, it's not emergency funding unless we get it, to now them saying, how can we partner some more? What else can we do? So I have built a career on building relationships. I come to you first from the public health sector. I spent a lot of time at the Department of Health and Human Services in the Office on Women's Health. So what did that teach me? One of my major initiatives there was violence against women. And what I observed as I did that work was that a lot of those conversations around leaving violent situations for anyone in the family, be it a man, be it a woman, are often around economics. And that understanding of economics then brought me to the Senate Finance Committee, where I worked on the health team. I got to work on things like the Affordable Care Act as one of the only Black women at the table for the United States Finance Committee in crafting that law. And I also got to work on unemployment insurance and deal with workforce issues. So I came here knowing how to look at systems, how to look beyond a person, a business, and look at an entire sector. What I have learned since being at the SBA and advising on how we move money has only recommitted me to a career of making sure that businesses, particularly Black businesses, stay open, because what it means to community, we all experienced it during COVID when we saw boarded up businesses. I don't ever again want to see that in my lifetime. I want to leave here knowing that I've built resiliency in communities to handle whatever comes next and not have to board back up. I'm going to leave it there and leave some space for other panelists.
Deirdre, thank you so much. I think that's powerful, and I certainly agree that the boarded up businesses, certainly what we saw in the first 6 months of the pandemic. For those that don't know, 40% of Black owned businesses had to shutter their doors and windows within the first 6 months of the pandemic. And I that's a lasting image in my mind, and I don't want to see that again either. Now let's move over to Sandrina Robinson. Sandrina is the general manager for LBA Realty, a commercial real estate firm. I'm excited to hear about this because we don't have a strong African-American presence in the commercial real estate space. So I'm excited when I see somebody who has elevated themselves to a leadership role in that industry. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, Sandrina.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Sandrina Robinson. I'm a 33-year veteran in the commercial real estate industry. That was after serving 15 years in the financial sector, but I started my career when I was 6. My degrees are in accounting and finance. I also hold an MBA from the University of Colorado Leeds School of Business. And for 2/3 of my tenure in the commercial real estate industry, I was the only person of color managing Class A office, which are your big trophy assets that you see in downtown environments. I have represented companies like the Prudential Insurance Company, Miller Global Investments, CBRE Global Investors, Equity Office, and now LBA Realty, which is a national real estate investment trust that has more certifiable assets than any other commercial real estate company in the country. In fact, it leads in sustainability and ESG initiatives, and we are so proud of that. Because I didn't see anyone that looked like me anywhere I went, in any forum in commercial real estate, I got really involved in BOMA, which is our local trade association, stands for Building Owner and Managers Association, and I got involved on the international level. As a result of managing its Government Affairs Committee, its State Government Affairs Committee, serving 2 terms on its Executive Committee, and being a part of the Finance Committee, and now leading its DE&I Committee. 2 years ago, I was honored with the title of BOMA Fellow. Teams under my leadership have won 6 Toby Awards. That's the Outstanding Building of the Year Award. That for our industry, it's like the Academy Award. It shows leadership excellence and also managerial excellence in operations and also asset preservation performance. And so I'm very proud of that. But in all the things that I've done, to include sitting on the board for the Downtown Denver Business, Downtown Denver Partnership on its Business Improvement District, and serving in the capacity of an officer, I think the thing that I am most proud about is that on a personal level, I'm the granddaughter of a Methodist minister who earned his doctorate degree in 1911. And I'm the proud daughter of a pharmacist who was one of the first African-American men to get an advanced degree in pharmacology from the University of Colorado Boulder, and a college administrator who earned her degree in library science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and another master's degree from the Colorado State University in higher education administration, and was hailed by the city of Denver as being a living legend for the contributions that she made to the higher education complex known as Auraria, that houses 2 universities and also 1 junior college. And most importantly, I'm 3rd generation removed from slavery. That is very important to me in terms of where we've come from. My parents were always pioneers in making sure that they were trailblazers and they opened up opportunities for others. I was hailed by the Colorado Real Estate Journal as being a person who takes delight in helping others to succeed. So I'm very, very honored to be a part of this distinguished panel. And oh my God, Dr. Pinkett, you are amazing. I thought I had passion. You put a new definition on the word of passion. And I've learned so much just from the conversation that you've had today. One thing that I know about African Americans is that we all have an amazing amount of talent that was actually created and came about through adversity. So I'm here to say that we're opening doors, and I'm going to help open the doors to Black businesses so that they can be a part of the real estate industry rather than sitting on the sidelines. We can do more than be day porters and security officers. Right. You know, we are developers, we are asset managers, we are business professionals that add value to everything that we do. And so thank you for opening up this opportunity for me to participate in this forum. I am just so thrilled to be a part of it. I really am. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandrina. Thank you so very much. We're going to dive right into my first question. So as we bring Black Small Business Month to a close, this is for the group. So I'll walk through it with each one of you. But here's my question. What would you say have been the most significant improvements or advancements among Black business owners over the last 3 years? Let's start with you, Sandra Marks.
But, you know, to me, what I've seen in particular, because of what happened with George Floyd and what's been happening around our country, is a awakening among many Black businesses, but also among Blacks as a community to really begin to respect those who have taken the step of serving them through entrepreneurship. You know, being able to see, and I really see it in the next generation, you know, my daughter and her generation, young people who are persistent in wanting to see their dollars stay among Black businesses. And I don't think they really realized how important that was until we saw ourselves faced with a realization that if we don't do it, who will? And, I come from an older generation where we were perhaps not always as sensitive to where our dollars went. But today, I think that's changing. And those Black businesses that are really positioning themselves to serve are now being seen in a different light to me, and hopefully see themselves in a different light. They truly are problem solvers, and they truly are game changers.
Thank you very much. Abdullah, same question. What advancements or improvements have you seen among Black business owners in the last 3 years?
Well, first, I see that a lot of us are using our own passion and creativity to start new business. I have seen, like Black chefs now creating their own restaurants. I've seen Black agents that normally sell like basic life insurance. Now she has her own custom 6-figure t-shirt business. So I see a lot of us using our own creativity and passion. And also I do see a lot of folks now wanting to help Black business. And we want to help each other grow. We understand now the importance of us buying from each other, and making sure that we bring those dollars to help Black businesses grow so we can provide jobs to others and help our families and also help our communities.
Thank you, Abdullah. Deirdre, same question for you. Now, again, your perspective is going to be somewhat different in that you're coming from the funding side with the SBA, but tell me, what improvements have you seen among minority business owners?
One of the things that I know about Black business owners that I know about, particularly, I'm going to stay focused today on Black business owners, is that with knowledge comes execution. When we know, we do. And one of the things that COVID really made pronounced was the need for access to capital. And so the same thing that you've commended us on in moving from $1 billion agency to $1 trillion agency, SBA was a well-kept secret. We are no secret anymore. When you say small businesses are the engine of the economy, the funder of that engine becomes not a secret. And so I've seen, as an improvement, Black-owned businesses saying, okay, we need access to capital, to grants, to investment. How do I make myself ready? And we can talk about that a little later. The other thing I've seen is that there's a much more of a vocal conversation, an unapologetic mainstream conversation around how can Black business owners be positioned to rebuild our own communities after disaster. We have a whole office, the Office of Disaster Assistance here at SBA, and in conversations we've had across the country, but in places like New Orleans, where they say when these opportunities are bundled, sometimes local businesses do not get the opportunity to rebuild the community that they're in. And so now I'm hearing those conversations and looking for solutions much more mainstream. I have just two more. Technology. So Lumen, this is the space where you live. Human progress through technology. This is the place where CenturyLink lives as well. What we've noticed is the pickup in e-commerce and the digital economy. And the administrator, where were we? I don't remember, but she coined the phrase like the accidental exporter. Folks who started doing business on Etsy and started doing this digital business during COVID as a means of keeping their businesses alive, all of a sudden found their goods and services going over the seas. And they became exporters. That is a real opportunity, and we're trying to manage that through our Office of International Trade and really looking at diaspora communities to see what we can create. And then lastly, I would say the needs on the workforce front. So what has come into stark reality are spaces that I used to work in all day, every day. Things like childcare. Well, childcare providers do it from a sense of passion, which Dr. Pinkett really talked about, and service, which my colleague Sandra has talked about. But you're a business as well. And we may be able to help you at the SBA figure out how you get access to capital for your licensing. That costs money. for the appropriate training. We are now really, really focused at SBA on what can we do around childcare as a workforce stabilizer, but then also as high quality childcare, building the workforce of tomorrow and our entrepreneurs of tomorrow. So those are four of the takeaways that I got from this moment that I think are standing out for me right now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. That's very insightful. Sandrina, what have you seen as the greatest improvements or advancement among Black business owners in the last 3 years?
Well, in my opinion, there have been significant advancements in the areas of networking and education. However, albeit less, there has also been improvements in access to capital. With respect to networking, there are Black business expos across the country supporting Black-owned businesses, which provides strategic guidance in the areas of marketing, advertising, and branding, as well as finance. These expos also offer scholarships to high school students. Resources like the compilation of the Black Business Directory, known as Black Pages, has been a tremendous resource in the Denver market to connect Black businesses. Minority growth engines, like the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, have also been very effective with connecting corporations and Black-owned businesses. Another networking advancement, which my colleagues spoke about, has been a more effective use of the internet, which has expanded products and services beyond the Black community, which has been really important. But in terms of broadening access to capital, I am so happy to see what the Small Business Administration is doing. There are now 42 Black-owned banks nationwide and also venture capitalists. While there continues to be improvement, this is an area that still needs additional resources. And I hope that people will step up and non-minorities will step in and start supporting Black businesses in a more strategic financial way.
Sandrina, thank you so very much. I'll just share that for me, what I've seen in the last 3 years, and I think that it is epitomized in this panel that we are talking to today, and that is that Black-owned businesses have now stepped out of that myopic view that all we are is barbershops and barbecue spots, right? Nothing wrong with either one. I can tell you, I've got family and friends that have created enormous levels of success as barbershop owners or barbecue spot owners, but that is not all we are. It's not all we can do. As we can see, we've got people in commercial construction, financial services, technology, and more to the point, what we've done is we have raised our own bar in that our customers are anyone. We are no longer isolating ourselves to serving our own community exclusively, as much as we are looking to build better quality and products and services that everyone would want to buy from us. So that's probably the biggest thing I've seen, is that we have literally just elevated in the last 3 years, and it has been really exciting to watch. I'm going to go to some subject matter expertise questions now. Abdullah, now, you have put a great deal of time into educating yourself. I have followed your journey for the last 9.5 years, and whether it's a new certification or some other skill set you've developed, and it's always been such a point of pride. You are the example I point to when I tell other small business owners, if you want to know how to succeed, you have to be a lifelong learner. Tell us a little bit about what you would attribute your constant improvement to and how it attributes to your success as a business owner.
All right, great, Robin. Yes, first I would say I had to realize what I didn't know. I'll say that again. I had to realize what I didn't know. A lot of times it's hard to confront that, it's something that I don't know and I have to learn. Secondly, applied knowledge is power. It's not just about getting knowledge. You have to be willing to apply it, okay? And so I know Deirdre are gonna love this, but I attended the SBA Emerging Leadership Program in 2019. And that program was a game changer, basically, for my company. I learned something about financials that I did not know. They have a financial module that shares with you and teach you about certain ratios that a bank looks for. See, I'm all about coming to the bank with my numbers right and being able to, talk to a banker with confidence, letting them know that I know exactly what's going on inside my business financially. So the SBA program truly helped me. And that was one of the major knowledge programs that I took on to literally help my business grow. Robin.
Abdullah, thank you. It's so funny. I remember the conversation you and I had. It was almost 5 years ago. We had a conversation. You had gone through one of the many trainings and programs you've gone through, and you said, brother, I've been running a business without knowing what my quick ratio is.
That's right.
He said, and now that I know what it is, he goes, I run my business completely different. And let me tell you what this looks like to the external world. So when I first took over the chamber, when I called Sandtrek Technologies, one of two people answered the phone, Gabriella, Abdullah's right-hand person, or Abdullah. It is rare that I get to talk to Abdullah now because he is running a business and he has employees that are doing the work of the business. And I couldn't be happier because he seems to really be a much more accomplished business leader than being an IT person. He runs an IT company more so now than him being an IT person. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of elevating. And it is so impressive to watch. But I look at it and it's because of that commitment to education, to the gaining of knowledge. When we stop learning, we stop growing. When we stop growing, we stop. So let's just keep that in mind. Sandra, I waited because this one is always impressive to me. So Sandra Porter Marks was the founding person within Clayco to create a program called Clayco Rising, which exists solely to elevate minority-owned contractors in how to work in the commercial construction industry. Let me be clear. They will help you get business even if it's not with Clayco. How many companies are doing that today? How many companies are trying to elevate small businesses, even if it isn't for their direct benefit? But Sandra actually was the first person to go through her own program and still is a small business owner. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, and it really ties to partnering for profitability. One of the things that Clayco Rising, which is the program, like you said, we developed after 25 years of Clayco doing this kind of work and recognizing that we're focused on the wrong thing because we're always looking at, in some cases, percentages, how much do we spend with minority-owned firms, but never as much focus as we are today on profitability. And recognizing that if doing business with Clayco isn't your way toward wealth, then it's more important to us to help you find that way, whether it's a different sector within our industry, whether it's our peer, literally connecting people to our competitors so that they can be profitable and they can build wealth, which really is what Rising is all about. And it started with my own journey of recognizing that, just like many Black-owned businesses, my initial thought really wasn't wealth. As a matter of fact, it almost sounded back in my day like that would be wrong. Who am I to say wealth? Today, I say it boldly. And I say, isn't that what we're in business for? And I have to say, Deidre, I started off as an SBDC consultant. So the SBA was my trainer. And I understood very quickly those ratios you talked about over there, Abdullah, and understood very quickly, too, that companies that understood that it's about profitability, not always revenue. I can do more with $1 million and hit and make it fall to the bottom line than I can with 10 million. And that's really what we're trying to educate firms on. When you're partnering today, it's much more attractive now that larger or even same size white-owned companies want to partner with a Black-owned firm. They want a joint venture. Think about it from the standpoint of profitability. How do you get out of that situation, what you're seeking, which is to build wealth for you and yours? So that really changed my own view too. As I was looking at taking a transition from my own business inside of Clayco, which definitely increased my own personal wealth capacity, kind of getting on that moving train of an engine that Clayco now represents around the country. But it was also saying, how do I help more, in particular, construction firms, whether it's architects, engineers, construction managers, trade contractors, understand that don't let anybody talk you into any deal, any job, any project where you can't see a profit along the line. It makes sense sometimes that we may decide how much profit we're willing to take, or whether we're willing to take profit in different forms other than financial, but don't ever go into something that's not profitable for you. So partnering for profitability is what Clayco Rising is all about. And Robin's holding us to it. If we don't do it in Phoenix, then he'll let us know. Like you said, we're doing $1.5 billion and growing. If we're not spending a certain amount of that profitably with Black-owned businesses, we have not truly met up to what Clayco Rising is all about.
Sandra, thank you so much. Deirdre, we're going to move on to you in the interest of time. This is my favorite question as it relates to access to capital, because I take so many calls every day from people who started a business yesterday and call me today saying, where's the money, right? And I have to explain to them that there is no loan you can get by just showing a picture of yourself as a minority, that you got to do something. So here's my question. If you can maybe keep your answer to a couple of minutes, I know people are going to want this one, but as it relates to access to capital, what can Black business owners do to increase their chances of gaining access to capital, whether through the SBA, through traditional commercial lending, through CDFIs? What can they do to increase their chances of receiving access to capital?
Okay, I'm gonna maybe I have to preach this one. So I'm married to a minister. My Sunday title is First Lady Deirdre Henry Spires. I got 2 minutes for this message, but let me. I'm not gonna take a text, but I will take Sandra Porter Marks and Abdullah on the road with me as an Emerge alumnus and someone who's been in our SBDC family. So I'm going to try to break this into 2 parts. First thing, SBA has help for you getting capital ready. That is what I want to focus on because we don't have a lot of time. Get capital ready. What we saw in PPP, people were not able to maybe access PPP right away. And at some point, because some of our banks weren't doing what they ought to in communities of color, but our CDFIs and even the fintech industry reached in and did what we needed them to do to help us finish out PPP. But in COVID idle, where we had this SBA offered loan, that a lot of that bias was removed from, we still had folks that weren't capital ready. And so you kind of show up like, is this a legitimate business or not? I know you're legitimate, but how do you prove that? So let's just talk about a couple of things that you need to have to be capital ready. You can't just show up, like you said, with a picture of yourself. You're going to have to be able to come in with about 36 months of tax returns. Keep your tax returns. Interim financials. Keep track of the money that you have. Liquidity matters. So the absence of collateral is normal for many small businesses, but that's why SBA guaranteed loans exist. So you need to demonstrate that you can retain cash for rainy day problems that may come up. You may not, and your ability to manage cash, that you have cash set aside. Now we know that that's hard because you've got higher priorities like needing payroll, making accounts payable, but managing that all matters. People will look at you as a complete story. I'm going to need you also to work on your credit score, your personal credit score. What bankers and financial institutions know is that the business is the person and the person is the business. So let's aim for 700. I loved COVID idle because we had really competitive loans for credit scores that were in the 500s and then in the 600s. And then as the money went up, the 700s. But let's aim for 700. Let's see if we can get some other collateral other than our homes. And I'm really trying to go fast. Besides looking at your accounts receivable, looking at your credit score, I want you to get ready for access to capital. Loans are not all bad. That's the other thing we have to educate. We as African Americans in our communities and our borrowers, it's like, I don't want to be in debt. I applaud that. However, all loans aren't bad. We had folks not take PPP, a forgivable loan, because they were afraid of debt. No. So there's a role for everyone through some of these networks to educate the community on what is good debt. What does that look like? So it's a charge to everyone, all the organizations represented here, to be a part of that conversation. We have community navigators to help you. We have small business development centers. We have women's business centers. We have accelerator programs. We have veterans business centers. We have targeted outreach. Look at Treasury for what a CDFI is and get some money from our CDFIs. They've got programs targeted to you and your business. I think what I'm going to close with, because I can't get it all out in 1 minute, is to say, let's keep this conversation going, because there's more to share with you on the opportunities that are available right now. Let that be a teaser. Go to sba.gov, look at resource partners, and figure out who is near you. You can put in your zip code and it will pull up all our resource partners in your community. Walk in and tell them Deirdre Henry Spire said, if you walked in, somebody would help you.
Great. Thank you so much, Deirdre. And we are really close to being out of time, but this was important to me. Sandrina, can you just share maybe 1 or 2 bullet points of how we can increase participation in commercial real estate amongst the Black community, the Black business community?
Well, I think that we've already touched on it in a way. One of the things that the commercial real estate industry is doing is that we're structuring minority vendor programs as part of our DE&I commitment through our environmental social governance policies. But the other thing that we need to have happen is, we need to have minority vendors reach out to us. One of the pitfalls that has always been a problem with access to the commercial real estate industry is that we don't know who the vendors are. So by getting in touch with us, by going through the Minority Supplier Diversity Council and making yourself known to our industry is going to be very important. The other thing that's happening is that there's a lot of educational outreach that's being supported with mentoring, internships, and apprenticeships. My company has done a phenomenal summer internship program for minorities. It's been highly successful and highly regarded by my principals. JLL, a huge real estate company. In fact, I think it might be the 2nd largest in the world. And I apologize to any JLL people out there if I've misinformed that. But one of the things that they've done is that they're a founding partner of the Urban Land Institute for the Real Estate Associate Program known as REIT. And this is an online academy to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in the commercial real estate industry. The other thing they've done is they've set up an endowment fund at Florida A&M to provide scholarships to 2 students pursuing careers. BOMA International is doing the same. We're working with HBCUs in the Atlanta area. So fundamentally, it comes down to let's find a way to introduce ourselves. There are, like I said, business engines out there to help do that. Our industry is open, and so we're welcoming participation. We need your help as well.
Thank you so much. I think that's a great one to end on. We've got to make ourselves visible, right? We've got to let the world know we're out here in order for us to get the support and resources that we need. Thank you all so very much. This has truly, honestly been a privilege and an honor for me to learn from each one of you. I've known some of you for years and I still learn quite a bit today. Dr. Pinkett, I really don't even have words to tell you how powerful it was to listen to you today. Actually yesterday, I bought my copy of his book and we'll be reading that as soon as I get it, and then reading all of the others as well. But for now, I just want to say thank you so very much. I'm going to turn it back to Sandra Hartfield to take us home. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Robin. All right. So hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Hartfield. I'm a sales director with CenturyLink. And We would like to thank our dynamic keynote speaker, Dr. Pinkett, distinguished panel for an amazing and engaging discussion. As they said earlier, we do need a part 2 of this. And now we would like to close out National Small Business Week, National Black Business Month, I'm sorry, with a couple surprises. So the first 50 people to place their full name as it appeared when you registered will receive a copy of Dr. Pinkett's latest book, Black Faces in High Places. It's an excellent book. So start chatting now, place your name in the chat as it was when you registered, and we'll get a copy to you to the first 50. And then in addition to that, when you registered, many of you recommended Black-owned businesses that you felt that we should consider highlighting this month. So we've decided to spotlight 5 Black-owned businesses with a $1,000 Best Buy gift card. All right, and the first winner is, we'll wait for the next slide, all the way from Gilbert, Arizona, Zion Compassion Care. Zion Compassion Care strives to offer excellent home health care for individuals and families in need of community home care and group home services. Congratulations, Zion Compassion Care. All right, and the next winner is from Denver, Colorado. The Owl Club of Denver. The Owl Club of Denver Scholarship Fund strives to improve the lives of eligible high school senior women by encouraging pride, character, leadership, community service, and excellence, as well as providing much needed financial and other support for their first year in college. Congratulations, the Owl Club. Next winner is from the state of Florida. Let's hear it for Najee Art Studio. Najee Art Studio is a full-fledged art studio that caters to all genres of art. They offer a variety of workshops and classes that focus on educating children on the fundamentals of art and advanced painting for leisure from preteen to adults. Congratulations. And our fourth winner is from Las Vegas, Nevada, Steadmaz. Steadmaz, this company manufactures quality American press skateboards, shoes built to last, wheels to get you flying, as high as a line of stylish, as well as a line of stylish apparel. Congratulations to Steve Stedman and his team. And our final winner is from Spokane, Washington. Congratulations to Black Lens News. The Black Lens is an independent community publication that is focused on the news, events, people, issues, and importance of the African American community. The Black Lens has quickly become the place to go for information about what's going on within the Black community. Congratulations. On behalf of our leaders and employees at CenturyLink, thank you for attending today's webinar. The webinar has been recorded and will be made available for you to share with others. For those attending the event, you will receive the commemorative gift featured on this slide. We encourage you to intentionally, Dr. Pinkett spoke of this, be intentional. So we encourage you to intentionally seek opportunities to support Black-owned businesses in your communities and during your travel. Let's do our part to keep these businesses growing and thriving in our community. Thank you. Happy National Black Business Month. Until next time, have a good one.